Hello and welcome to the Overlap Rugby podcast. I'm Daragh, that's Shane.
Hello.
This is number 20, ahead of the Super Rugby semi-finals, which take place this weekend. And that's going to be the focus of our show. Not a lot going on in outside of Super Rugby. The Pacific Nations Cup more or less didn't happen. There were some games. Fiji won all of them.
Fiji look good. That is a talking point of this year, if nothing else. Fiji definitely look much improved.
All the more reason for them to have a proper competition to play in.
Yes.
Beyond that, Northern Hemisphere is sort of getting there.
It's the only headlines really are of just new signings here and there and a few bits of controversy in clubs and stuff.
Leinster's pre-season started this week, so pre-seasons are sort of starting to begin again. And that's pretty much it from this hemisphere. So our focus is going to be on the big
games that are to come
this weekend.
And they're all, as we said the last week, the games we were looking forward to, they were all great games in their own way. One or two of them, like certainly the Crusaders match, we thought was a little spoiled by the weather, so maybe not in terms of anything telling about the contest. I think it probably would have ended up going that way, but it kind of spoiled a bit of the spectacle. Like just cracking a can of Coke. I love how you wait till we start to crack a can of Coke. So we're basically going to start there with our reviews of last week, and then look forward obviously to the weekend, which has a few exciting contests to it as well. We're starting with Crusaders Highlanders, which, as we said, I was a bit wet. Yeah, a lot of that certainly in the response to it was attributed to conditions and just it being hard to play, but definitely the Crusaders' ability to recycle and go through the phases became the most telling factor, and they just pinned the Highlanders back, and the Highlanders were never able to get their proper players into the game, their weapons into the game in a meaningful way, and they struggled for territory, struggled for possession, and then ultimately found no points in the game, which was disappointing from them as well, because they're a better team than that. Yeah,
that's what I was thinking. Is my point was about the Highlanders. I'm not at all disappointed with the Crusaders. A little bit unsurprised by their failures, which were persistent.
We're still finding they struggle to find tries.
Yeah, but in general, they did their job, which was to really effectively strip the Highlanders of their ball. Their forward pack was just like a machine, a juggernaut, just going through the motions, doing what they did. Kieran Reid, great form. Matt Todd, great form. Taufua, great form. Scott Barrett, great form. Sam Whitelock, exceptional form.
Yeah, their pack looks devastating still.
Especially in the line-out, Sam Whitelock was superb. But in a general sense, what I was disappointed in was the Highlanders and the way they approached the game. Obviously, massively hideous conditions. Not ideal for them to begin with, and they are a team who that kicking game has had success for in the past. But the manner in which, throughout that first half, it just wasn't working for them, and they were sort of getting away with it. They were 3-0 down for most of the half.
But it was one of those halves where there was an ominous feeling if you were in a Highlanders camp throughout, because it just didn't look like
the game started to take a certain shape. The Highlanders, when they had the ball, would look for territory, would look for those low deep kicks to catch off the Crusaders, and the Crusaders did a really excellent job, and I don't think you can stress enough how good a job that back three did.
Dag was really good.
15 was really good. Moanga was covering those deep areas quite nicely, and Israel Dag was doing the real job a couple of times in that half. There were box kicks in behind over the head of Dag, and he picked it up and returned fire with a really deep cross kick, and ended up winning the territory battle for the Crusaders. But once that started to happen, it was really time for the Highlanders to show what they had. And they never did. They stuck to the game plan. They were rigorously sticking to it. Whether it's Ben Smith or Sapawanga or Aaron Smith, none of them actually really had a go. And
whenever they did as well, they were very sloppy in terms of they were much quicker than the Crusaders to drop a ball or not be able to go through phases. When they were going through phase play, it was only ever making it to 5 or 6 before the ball was gone. The drop ball came
usually for me when I was watching the Highlanders. It came after slow play. So it was we go this side, we go this side, we go back the other side, we go back the other side, and then the drop ball came in those tight one-out runner carries. But what they didn't do, what they have been good at doing over the years, is finding the killer ball, is looking at that deadly pass into space. And I get it, it's lashing rain, it's horrible weather. it's going to be tough to do that. But once the game started taking the shape it was taking,
Yeah,
you
sure.
really
Yeah,
got to take
yeah.
risks, even if that comes at the cost of losing it by more. But they never took risks.
That was
They
it.
stuck to
Yeah.
their game plan. The
Them,
game
like
continued
them,
to take
if
that
had
shape,
had
and
they
just got
thrown those
drowned out
loose
of it.
passes, it may have ended up being 30 odd points to the Crusaders,
But in
and
the
they would have
quarterfinal,
lost.
that doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly, and
And
they
they
had
never
no
tried
chance
for it.
of winning the way they went about it. I
Yeah.
suppose you're right, but definitely it can't be understated as well how much their pack was just outmatched on the day. They were just
That's true.
in
And
all
then
their battles won
There
up.
were
They
like
were
crucial
lost.
moments. When the Highlanders still had the ball in that had the ball in that second half and actually did get one. I think their only good phase play to get together in the whole game. They ended up winning a penalty,
Yeah,
and they kicked that ball into the corner, and then Sam Whitelock picked the line out off.
Yeah,
There were loads of
yeah,
those
they're-
key plays.
exactly. Little
They did a
moments
lot of work on their scrum, the Highlanders, seemingly to me,
Yeah.
in the week, and they did a really good job even with
of
7 men.
parity is what they were aspiring for as well. And
Yeah. But their line out was picked off, and they were picked off at the breakdown, and certain players that had to step up sort of didn't. You talk about like well, they had no Elliot Dixon, and Luke Whitelock had a decent game, but it wasn't a spectacular game. And I'm trying to remember Liam Squire who got
Yes.
sent off
Yeah,
at the
he did,
very
yeah.
beginning of the game, and he is one of their leaders, one of their best.
He's
players
a very
in the
good
pack.
player. He's a kind of really good footballer and very physical as well. You'd need him around for all of that kind of, especially early doors when they're trying to, like we said, establish that kind of pattern that the game's going to be set in, and it did not help. The momentum swings in the first half were not for the Highlanders at all,
Yeah.
and there were little moments. Even Ben Smith had little moments that were just not quite.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Well,
quite
there was
working.
another
Nothing was clicking in the rain.
exasperating moment when they did another box kick as an exit strategy, and they hadn't been working all day, and Ben Smith did win it, and that was the only one I think they won all day. And then immediately Aaron Smith did a second kick. Israel Dag gathered it and fielded it really well, as he did all day, and returned that kick with a bullet kick down the far side, and it ended up being a line out to the Crusaders between the 10 and the 22 in the Highlanders half. And that was the sort of, those incidents kept happening. So the Highlanders, obviously, as I've said, really should have tried anything different.
Yeah.
Threw the kitchen sink at it, as it were, and they didn't.
Yeah, that's I suppose that's what's disappointing, but it is hard to do that when you're getting pummeled and being driven backwards. And when they did try and retain ball, it was sloppy ball. Matt Todd was being a nuisance. There was good play all round on the Crusaders' part.
It was a bit like the Munster Saracens game in the semi-final.
Yeah,
when like at half-time it was 9-3 to Saracens or something like that, and Munster seemed relatively satisfied with where they were. But they didn't really seem to understand the urgency of what was happening and how things had gone wrong for them, and how they would need to really change things up if they wanted to have a chance of winning the game. They sort of thought, we'll go through the motions and maybe it'll drop for us. And that was what the Highlanders were doing, because the Crusaders weren't, like, their territory with ball in hand to try ratio was really poor.
Yes, as it kind of has been towards the tail end of this season as well. We've been talking about that, and that's like, we're not as clear cut here. We'll get on to obviously the games to come, but there's a lot of talk of how the Lions Crusaders final is all but a done deal and it's set up, and I just don't agree with that. Don't think it's anywhere near as clear cut as all that, particularly with the Crusaders not finding as many tries towards the tail end. I think they're just, defenses are getting a bit more savvy to it across the board. Obviously they have a season to improve themselves, but also teams get used to the look that they're giving that season and what they're doing, and they have more video analysis to do because there's more stuff out there. Like, it's more of an understanding. So I think the Crusaders are being found out a little, and their conservatism, their eagerness to go through phases and recycle means that they, similar enough to what we've been talking about some of our Northern Hemisphere teams doing. Sometimes Ireland are guilty of doing it, where it's like all the players in support are already rucking out instead of support lines and looking for offloads, so there's just less, there are less line breaks there. It was definitely better for having Crotty back at centre instead of Havili, and Havili where he should be at fullback. But some of those phases, it had something to do with the weather for sure, but some of those phases when they had the ball, even the ones that resulted in tries, and it was that, especially the one I'm thinking of, I think it was the opening try where it was so slow. The ball was so slow, and then it was sort of erroneously awarded, and then he didn't check with the TMO, and it looked like it could have been perhaps not a score, but they really did nothing to earn that score. They were just so slow with the ball. They were minding the ball, picking and jamming, and
barely picking and jamming, just picking and recycling, and like, there was very little versatility to what they were doing, and they could afford to do it because the Highlanders really didn't have that much to offer in terms of how we turn over the ball. But still, in that game there were a few, I think there were at least 3 times where the Highlanders did get a poach in their own 22.
Yeah.
And that's like,
And it was just born of just that laziness.
it's just born of
like
really conservative, really slow, around the fringes. We're going to outmuscle you. And the conditions certainly helped them do that.
Yeah, well, it made
going
it with
forward,
a game
they're
where
not
that's more of a percentage play than it is if the ball was dry, and then
Sure.
the Highlanders were able to run it
But
back.
you
at
never
them.
know. Like, the Highlanders are an interesting team. And in that game, the Crusaders, after 25 minutes of pure dominance, were up 3-0. But even after 60 minutes, like, we've seen the Highlanders do this. They were 17-0 up, and they were going through the motions. But if it had clicked for the Highlanders, if they hadn't have lost that line out at that key moment, and they'd scored a couple of tries, or they got it like a try, and then all of a sudden a penalty, like, you never know. So the opportunity to put that game to bed when it should have been put to bed, like, I don't think it should go understated that that's an error on the Crusaders' part. They're still an elite team. They still have the best pack in the competition. They still have the best defense in the competition. And their attack is
functional,
like,
serviceable.
Functional and serviceable, and certainly when they get going, they can look like a machine.
Yes.
Rolling and rolling and rolling, but it does need that quick ball.
I don't know if we'll see that in these games to come.
Well, they're not going to be given as passive an opposition.
Yeah, exactly.
As they've been given.
The South Africans have answered our calls in terms of their defensive lines for the most part in those games. Certainly the Stormers and the Lions a bit more as well. Were up in the face a little bit more, pushing out a little bit more.
I think every team they'll face from here, even if it's just one more game, the Chiefs will probably do it. Will shoot and will harm them.
Yeah, I think it'll be individual shooters.
The Chiefs were blitzing against the Stormers, as we'll talk about.
Yeah.
But certainly, I don't think they'll be given as passive a
No,
team. And I certainly
won't be.
do think there'll be poachers against them.
Yes.
Whether it's like, it doesn't matter who they're up against. The next week, obviously, you're going to have to contend with Sam Kane, Liam Messam, and then if it's the Hurricanes in the final, you're going to have Artie Sevilla and Brad Shields to look out for. And against the Lions, there's all kinds of players, Jaco Creels and Malcolm Marxes, who can do damage.
Indeed.
So you've got to be minding that ball, and you have got to be finding tries when you have the opportunity to do so.
Yes, yeah, that's it, and that's what we've been head scratching about this Crusaders team in terms of just
really
New
just
Zealand.
towards the tail end since they lost to the Lions.
Yeah, that's pretty much been it. Yeah, they whether it's confidence or whatnot, but they're not trying as many things. There's definitely that lack of an impetus to find the killer pass, because there's that knowledge of how dominant their pack is, and then it kind of is a crutch where you're going like. It's the same thing with the Northern Hemisphere, where the notion of going back to safety is going back to where the numbers are and recycling the ball and building again, and that's where safety lies. But it's a misnomer really, because like chances are outside, the scores are out wide. Sometimes like you need to be going for scores, and like New Zealanders do understand that. Like the bulk of that Crusaders team, or a lot of that Crusaders team, are All Blacks as well. So there is an understanding there that games need to be won by scoring points, and knockout games need to be won by scoring a lot of points.
But it's playing to their strengths as well, because they got a whole pack of All Blacks. Then they got Wyatt Crockett on the bench, who's also an All Black. So they have 10 All Black forwards in their 23, and then you look at their back line, and there aren't so many. There's Crotty and there's Dag, but outside of that, they're pretty sparse.
Yeah,
Mong is doing a decent job at 10. He certainly was doing a good job in fielding. Havili and Dag did a really great job in fielding.
Yeah.
And
well, they knew what was coming as well in terms of they really did plan
it,
for it, and it came off. And the Highlanders just when conditions went sour, they went down, and when that kicking battle, when they weren't gaining the territory they wanted to be able to play the game where they wanted, they just had no plan B really, other than just wilting and fading away as the game drifted on. It kind of did feel a little. It wasn't quite my favourite game by any stretch, and the disappointing thing was more so when we were previewing it the week before and like salivating at both sides, and the spectacle it could have been didn't quite live up to it, and the challenge that the Highlanders ultimately presented was a little bit more futile than I would have hoped.
It was always going to be a low score. It was always going to be forwards oriented, and which was always not going to favour the Highlanders.
No,
but we wanted them to fire bolts and to try things, and sort of the lesson that the All Blacks learned, or did they learn in the rain in Wellington. They just didn't back their skill set because of the conditions, which were very similar to what we were facing, and they just said, no, we got to keep it tight. And the All Blacks just proved them, no, the Lions, I should say, proved them wrong. They played with the ball in the wet
the few times they'd had it, they played with the ball,
and they found tries,
and
won the game because they found tries, and the All Blacks didn't. They looked to play the game in those conditions. That was what we wanted from the Highlanders. Is like when it was 21-9 to the All Blacks in that game, and it looked like it was doom and gloom. And when it was doom and gloom for the Highlanders, we wanted that impetus that the Lions showed, that no, we do want to win this game. We do have to win this game, so we're going to have to try and find tries.
Yeah,
and that
was it. Like we were saying as well, even previewing it without the knowledge that it was going to be an absolute deluge on the day. But we were saying, like, if the pack can work really, really hard and they can get something like 35 or 40% possession, that could be enough for them if they're as
more
potent.
than that for the Crusaders. It was about 70.
It was 70.
Yeah,
so the pack didn't do that job, and then the backs didn't try things with the few goes they had. Either ended in slow play and a knock on, or a kick aimlessly and being returned with interest. So it was it was a little bit. It was quite a disappointment, that one. But it was interesting as well. It was interesting to see that.
I definitely
from
think
behind
Aaron Smith should be under a wee bit of pressure.
I think so too. Yeah, we've called that before. He's less prickly. He's more of a smooth. He's a very technical player, and he plays very well in good conditions with the pack going forward. But when the pressure does come on and when the heat comes on, he definitely fades in games, more so than a Piranara, who we've obviously he's in direct competition with. But Piranara, we've seen him go through those games where he's getting roughed up and getting annoyed and throwing the ball around and being like, ugh. And then at one point he'll find a play. He'll have that little bit between his teeth. I don't see that quite as much from Aaron Smith. He does have an eye for an opportunity and he's quick, but he definitely when he gets roughed up, he stays a bit roughed up and he's a little bit of a disconnect then for the team, and he can become a liability.
And the two of them just faded. Sopoanga and Aaron Smith, they just
disappeared,
in the game.
Put on their invisibility cloaks.
Yeah. And the only little bits of play you saw coming at all really came from like either Buckman or Fekitoa or possibly Ben Smith. Yeah. Once or twice.
When he got his hands on it.
Yeah.
A few times, the handful of times. But that was it. So it was unfortunate that was the last game of the Highlanders season, because their season has been very good and they provided a lot of really good games.
They started really slow and then they were gradually building towards something quite good. And towards the end of the season, you really thought they were going to do something.
Yeah.
So for them to go out passively,
it was
not helped by luck, not helped by conditions, not helped by facing a really elite pack.
And it won't help by blaming that, though. They could have to look at that and go, this is like better. This is going to happen. Knockout rugby happens in New Zealand at this time of year. It's the depths of winter. We need to be able to play in the depths of winter and try and win games if we want to win the knockout games in Super Rugby. Like, surely that has to be a factor in that. There's no sense pointing angry man yells at cloud kind of thing.
Yeah, no, 100%. Huge credit to the Crusaders. Their pack is
immense. They are immense. And Brodie Retallick swimming through defenders is Sam Whitelock swimming through defenders. I mean, what am I talking about? Brodie Retallick's, yeah, indeed. Sam Whitelock swimming through defenders, and also his line out nous this season has come to the fore. I think more so even than previous seasons. I think there are quite a few young locks around in Super Rugby this year, young guns, and he has put in a stalwart performance throughout the course of the season. He's been
probably
really clever.
A little bit better than Brodie Retallick this season. Sam Whitelock. He's actually possibly even leapfrogged him, and that's like not taking anything from Brodie, who I love.
Yeah, I just think they're performing different roles. Like Brodie is doing that thing where he is like carrying up the gut, and he does have soft hands. He's worked some of these soft hands into his game, but in terms of the line out nous, he's a big domineering line-out figure, sure, on his own ball, but he's not quite the best option for stealing line-outs because it takes him a while to get off the ground because he's a big unit as well. Like, you want to, like, Sam Whitelock just reads that a bit more, and it's something that Brodie will get in many, many years. I mean, he's 5 years later, he's done however many hundreds more line-outs in his time, and he just has a feel for it. That's where Sam Whitelock, I feel, is now. He has an instinct and an understanding in that line-out area, and he's comfortable talking and leading it. And he can intimidate some of these young guys around because he knows, he has a look in his eye that he can spoil it on them, and he did a lot of that against the Highlanders. So there's
a lot of really good second rows around these days in general.
Yeah,
Super Rugby I think has been great.
I think it's another position. Well, like all of them obviously with professionalism have moved on, but the role of a second row these days is so diverse, and there are like it can be many things, and there are many different forms. You look at a Maro Itoje type player versus a Sam Whitelock type player,
because it's like two extra jerseys, and traditionally like. They really have revolved around the set piece and around leadership and these sort of vague concepts.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of room for second rows to disappear.
Yeah.
So now looking forward into the new era, you have two extra jerseys obviously in your pack, and around the pitch you're sort of questioning how you want to use them, what you want to do with them, where you want to put them, what you want them to be, what do we lack, what do we need, and because of that, you are getting a lot of versatile players, as we saw really throughout the weekend.
It's great to see because it just brings that room in for just the guys who are that freakishly tall to be also freakishly skilled as well, and you get to see these phenomenal athletes at play when you see like the likes of a Brody or Talek, and whatever's going to come 10 years down the line, what are those second rows going to be doing? They're going to be like, a lot of them are at first receiver now, comfortable there, picking passes, picking chips through. There was a Grober kick through.
That was what I was referencing. Yeah, those like it's almost, because the height that's necessary to play that position, there are advantages that come with that height. And we've seen those kind of things being pioneered by the likes of Leone Nakarawa, where you've just got such long arms that you can stretch through a tackle.
Reach over a guy's head and release a ball behind him. You just need to work on the skills to be able to do that. But yeah, there's also, you like, in terms of if you can kick the ball at that height, you do have a good meerkatting stance because you're above everyone as well. You can, if you get your hands on the ball, you can see into the backfield straight away. So if you have the confidence, drop it on the toe if it's on, which we did see over the weekend as well. It's becoming a far more dynamic position, and it's
even Peter.
It's a great,
very, very comfortable.
He's a very technical player. He's got a lot of really good skills. My only reservation about him is that sometimes he's guilty of like taking his eye off the ball or being a little bit clumsy or fumbling a little bit. But that's only occasional. It's occasional slips. His all round game is very, very good though. Anyway, we'll move on to what was another one that was a little bit of exactly what we were saying.
I recall. I think I do get a bit of credit here because, like, and so do you in some sense, because you were sort of making the case vaguely for the Brumbies,
spoiling it a little and making it tight for a time,
and thinking they might actually nick it, and thinking it was a little less clear cut than I thought. And I was very directly no. And you were right in the sense that they spoiled it a little. They defended.
The Hurricanes did struggle with some of the questions they asked in terms of their ball retention.
Their defending was excellent. Their back row was excellent. A lot of their game was excellent. And ultimately, I was right in the sense that it was like, no way.
It was very similar to the week before as well. I think the Brumbies, they're very, very comfortable playing the game without the ball. They actually seem to enjoy that type of game. They do have that part of ethic across the team. But they just kicked the ball away whenever they got it, and like never looked like beyond the first score that they got. They never threatened to score anything, and they still, when they were chasing the game, were kicking the ball. And it was very similar to the week before when they were doing that. It's like, try again. We're going to defend again. They were just defending loads, and like, sure, they won a fair few penalties from it, snared a few players into the traps, and had Scott Fardy get over the ball or someone else. But it was a bit bizarre. I think it is still ripples of that confidence thing. I feel like they I feel like they just definitely feel more comfortable without the ball and trying to spoil and hit the opposition and maybe hurt the opposition at times. But it was a bit of a strange one given the circumstances, and as the game started to drift away from them, you were just going like, they really just don't have it. They don't have the firepower, it seems, or the willingness to try and bring those players outside the 9-10 channels.
They tossed an intercept.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah,
they at least went for it like the Islanders didn't.
That's it. Yeah, you have to give them more credit for that, I suppose.
They popped it into Jordy Barrett's hands, and away the game went.
Yes, I know.
I gotta say about the Hurricanes, I was underwhelmed. I was impressed and underwhelmed in a weird kind of way. Obviously, this out of position Jordy Barrett didn't work.
No, it's not it's not a thing anymore now. They've got
Asso back, and that's going to definitely give a more balanced shape to what they're doing in attack. It was very slow. In the second half, they allowed TJ to direct things a bit more, and TJ did a good job of doing that. But I remember Sean Stevenson, who's a New Zealand journalist, was tweeting out mid-match, just in the panic of the 18-16 grind, it was becoming, it's like, what's the plan here? Bludgeon them to death was what his point was. And I was like, it's a point well made, because they were very direct, they were very slow. They were much quicker than the Crusaders, but like the Crusaders, it was bludgeon, one runner, run runner. TJ was going like 2 times in field, then straight back blindside, then 2 times in field, then straight back blindside. And the Brumbies were really comfortable making tackles.
Yeah, they were happy enough to do that.
A couple of times Milner-Skudder came in, got his hands on the ball, freed up a bit of space.
Looked a little dangerous, yeah.
Yeah, but ultimately it wasn't happening. No. And what actually happened is they brought on their second distributor, Dane Coles, from the bench, who
and
really
he
did
made
play
something
like a 10.
happen. And he really did. That was a lovely dummy through. Sold Scott Fardy a dummy. And
sold Scott Fardy a dummy, brushed off Curran Dranny. They're 2 internationals, or 2 of their best internationals
Mm-hmm.
and slid through the pass inside to that TJ inside run,
Which we've
is
seen many
a
times.
weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
And
exact move we've seen many. That the
something
exact
missing
move
from
was
the
the
All
first
Blacks.
try they scored in the comeback phase of that Chicago game. Was very similar to that. Dane Cole slipping on the outside and then inside ball to TJ.
Yeah, they score that try all the time.
Yeah.
But it's the threat now. It's nothing to do with Bowden not being good. It's to do with Bowden being watched.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about the threat that a second distributor brings
Mm-hmm.
when that's not on. And Milner-Skudder was sort of trying to do that job, but it's not his natural job.
Yeah.
And then when Dane Coles came on, he just looked natural in it. You may as well have had
I
the
still
number 22
I still
on.
think there is something. I think we may have mentioned it before or during the season when Sean Cronin was doing similar things for Leinster in the white channels. I think even though the players obviously know that it's Dane Coles or it's Sean Cronin they're playing, there's still a little bit of an instinct of it's the hooker. It's grand. There's a little bit of.
I think at some point you just got to give him his due.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think he's being underestimated anymore because he's done this at the top level so often. And I know he's just back from injury, but it was immaculate.
Yeah.
It was absolutely immaculate what he did when he came on. He was a spark. He was almost like a Damien McKenzie-esque spark every time he touched the ball of pace and agility and danger.
Yeah.
And then both
And he's
sides.
alert
Just
is what
when
he's
he's
like,
breaking, the ball is doing this. So it's like I could give it any one of these rotations, you know. And then all of a sudden he will give it, and that's what keeps the defenders thinking. And really, he is acting like a replacement 10, and he came on and was just a huge value.
Yeah.
And you talk about what's been missing from the Hurricanes attack, just that little spark of dynamism from himself now starting, and then Vince Hasso is definitely a positive.
Oh, it's a
going
plus.
forward.
Yeah, no, they'll be much better. Like just two amazing weapons back into the team,
and a more balanced look to their backline.
Definitely.
So positive signs for the Canes. They weren't great in this game. The scoreline certainly flatters them.
You know,
and the Brumbies definitely contributed. But but
I definitely think they're in good stead. It's tough to learn from this because, as we were saying, like the Brumbies were definitely the weakest side in this, and the league table is one that obviously it can't be denied.
Well,
they were the weakest. They were the weakest side left in the last
their
8.
season 6 and 16.
Yeah, so
that's-
that's telling, surely.
Yeah.
So it's hard to gauge that from the Hurricanes' point of view. But now they're going. It's a big test. Obviously, it's a huge test. They
Just
are
in
up
terms
for
of, in terms of their physicality and their like physical state.
Yeah.
You know, you have to play the Crusaders one week, then you have to travel to Australia, then you have to travel to South Africa and go to Ellis Park and play the Lions.
Yeah.
That's a big few weeks. And their pack going to be up for it. There's question marks, and we'll talk about that in due course.
Yeah, but as far as this game goes, it was a little bit cut and dry once they started running in tries. It was just between they were a little bit. They did find the killer try, which was good and enjoyable. They were all similar criticisms to the Crusaders in terms of just how clinical they were, but obviously the fact that it was a slightly slapped together team with a few imbalances here and there, and the fact that the Brumbies were attritional and putting it up to them, like you can see the reasons for that. It's just hard to see them playing this game, this game to come the same way. I don't think they'll be trying the bludgeon as much. They'll try to be the quicker team.
They were the team that scored most tries earlier in the season. Obviously, Lamape and Asso were scoring tries. And the last few weeks, they have been like a little slapped together. Their attack has looked a little less dynamic. But what you have now is a TJ coming into form, and you have a Bowden who I think is still really ready to hit his stride. And a Bowden who is still managing the game very nicely.
Indeed.
He's putting little kicks in behind. He's
playing more like a traditional 10, like a Ronan O'Gara type 10, and it's very good. It's still very effective.
He's adept at
they're
doing it,
they're not struggling for finding territory. The Hurricanes find themselves in the right part, playing the game in the right parts of the field a lot of the time. So they definitely do have that aspect of game management, good control, decent retention, with a few eyebrows to be raised. They'll have to up their game in that front this week coming, because South Africans will be poaching at them. The Lions will be poaching all day.
That's the real question now. Is their pack going to be good enough to stand up going forward into the next 1 or 2 games?
I think they're probably, in terms of on paper, the weaker of the packs of the 4 teams left.
Probably. Outside of Artie,
but then they're all elite level packs. Can't be understated. Like they're still the Final Four, and they're very elite teams and elite packs, sure. But in those fine margins, when you're looking at the weapon that the Crusaders have in the pack, the balance that the Chiefs have all round, including in the pack, and then the Lions as well. The Lions are still the unknown. This is finally. Well, actually, like I suppose we could move on to that. Do you want to talk about the Brumbies thing? We'll move on instead of that game, Stormers Chiefs. We'll talk about the Lions, because they finally had a game, and it was a struggle, and it's controversial as well a little bit.
I think so. Yeah.
But yeah, the Sharks came up and came out and defended hard, came off the line hard.
Sort of like what we said. We were talking about, Northampton, Biarritz back in the day, and these shock results that can happen after a season of playing them. And the Sharks, like, there was a touch of just, because they played the Lions the week before, and their defence was just not even remotely similar to what it was in this game. And it was like there was a touch, they were keeping their cards close to their chest.
Definitely that.
They didn't even want to give them a game in Natal. I don't think they probably didn't want to play that game.
Yeah, it was considering how it ended up, just it was not good scheduling. But they put together a really, really, really great defensive test, which is all we wanted to see from them, really, in that first half. And had the Lions overcome it and done some good handling and won the game like that, we would have been like, okay, well, job done, Sharks, you did your blitz defense. But as the game happened, like the Lions failed that test miserably, and they were really scrappy. They knocked the ball on. They did not like having people in their face. Yankees is soft.
Yankees again was really, really poor.
I still
even around the park, like, we can talk about the place kicking and just that weird individual factor of a game that it is, and how it can swing things.
I also I will talk about that. I don't like the way he place kicks is one thing.
Just his technique.
His technique, the little thing that he does with his right leg before he goes up, where he he stiffens it and moves it all the way out. And I've watched many. It's a hard thing to critique because I've watched many ridiculous ones. We had the Dan Bigger Macarena and all kinds of weird kicking routines.
Even
but I just find I'm just thinking I find his technique kind of good. He just smiles at the post, gets up there and kicks it. This whole thing of like stopping, stiffening your leg and moving slow motion towards it for the first step, I think like that's just a really weird movement to introduce to your muscle memory before you're going to kick through it. I just think it's not helpful at all, and maybe a little bit of a lack of benefit because it doesn't help your radar or your
it's just one of those things that widens your margin for error, so that when you are feeling a little off, that it becomes more noticeable,
and it's more forced, and he's going through the routine and it's not actually a helpful routine that's ergonomically sound or whatever you want to call it. But I just don't think it actually helps. But that's besides the point, because he actually had a very poor game all around. As soon as that heat came on and the guys were opening his face, his decision making was poor or non-existent. He shoveled shite a couple of times in terms of just a drop ball and he just fling it on. It was panic. It was nowhere. Actually, like, Faf de Klerk impressed me when he came on later on. He was far more assured and controlled in the 10 channel. But I've often thought this actually ever since I've seen Yankees, which was during the Ireland tour last year, and a bit of the Super Rugby before then, but mainly the Ireland tour last year was where I was watching them for the most part, and I'm not convinced at all. The same way when I first saw Pollard, which was in the under 20s thing, Cup, I was just like, whoa, he's class, he's one for the future, he's unreal. When I saw Yankees, I was like, no. Even when I'm seeing him for the Lions running in a load of tries, I'm like, World Cup winning out half, no. Yeah, that's my thought on it.
I've very much been on the Yankees fence, not on the fence regarding Yankees.
Yeah, the jury was still out
corner.
For you.
Jury is coming in. I mean, I've heard a couple of nays already, and I'm starting to get the general picture. I certainly was not impressed with Yankees. I wasn't impressed with how the Lions used the ball in general. Yeah, there was some really scrappy play. I did like the Sharks pouncing on that mistake, because that was the other thing that we'd said about the Lions, is like a couple of times, even in scoring those tries, the move starts with a pass that goes behind a man who then turns around, picks it up and breaks, and you're like, what's going on?
Yeah, indeed. That was a mistake. Someone needs to be punished for that.
And the Sharks, every time they made a mistake, they punished them. So whether it was just a scrum or like occasionally they would juggle it and the Sharks would come flying in and hurt them and win a penalty, and then when they did make that knock on, the Sharks pounced, really elegantly taken try in the first half,
which is what it's all about, seizing on those opportunities that the Lions are prone to give. I think it's actually the whole style of game that they've cultivated over this season, where they're because of the opposition they're playing, they're very expansive, very open, very eager to just fling it blindly wide. It could end up hurting them, especially against the Canes.
One of the things that I've liked about the Lions is, like, once they notice an error, once they notice a pressure point or a weakness in your defense, in what you're doing,
they do target it consistently,
and then they score. But so a lot of these big results that they score are like 49-7 or something, but like 3 of the 49 points, 3 tries, 21 points, would be
the same error.
try.
Yeah,
the exact same try in the exact same space, because they would find it and keep hitting it, which is a quality I like in a team.
Yes, yeah.
But there are going to be so much fewer of those opportunities, and they're going to be playing teams who are smart enough to know to plug holes.
And be in their face at the same time. And I question the controlling figure that is Yankees. And also it was a point you were making while we were watching the game, where it's just like he's not got that attitude, which is what you were talking about Kerwin Bosch on the other side.
I really liked Kerwin Bosch's performance.
Even though he's maybe not as skillful, and certainly he made a few errors in the first half. He kicked the ball out in the full. He did drop had a bad knock on actually out in the broke. That was an opportunity. It was a bit of a loose thing. If he could have picked it up and offloaded it, could have been a try chance. But that being said, he has that little bit of grit, little bit more of a bite down. Sure, it's not going his way. The same thing we're talking about with TJ. It's not going his way, but he keeps trying. Those drop goals were the right call when they were coming in, and when Faf, the one question mark about Faf at 10, that drop kick out. But he was just going to go, give me another shot. He's got a little bit more of that Safa attitude to him, whereas Yankees, I feel softness about him, and I think
Yankees is the kind of player that facilitates those losses to Wales that have just defined this new box that nobody fears. Whereas Bosch might be a little bit of a throwback to those old traditional box players. He looks to kick, he looks to play, but he's also the kind of player who might rise to the occasion.
Indeed, yeah. And certainly I can see him having an exemplary kicking performance when he needs to, if this game comes down, or if a game would come down to that. Obviously he's not in it, but like Yankees is the one who's flappable. He's just more flappable.
It was Cobus Reinach and Kerwin Bosch.
They were controlling the game.
Up against the incumbent Springbok halfbacks, and they looked head and shoulders above the two of them. Reinach is a player who I've always liked. He's got a good box kick on him. He's got a very good head and his shoulders. He can certainly pass a ball, and he can be quick when you need him to be quick. He's
decisive. You don't even notice him just purely by the fact that he's doing his job so well and so immediately and effectively.
So Reinach is a player who I would like to see in the Bok jersey this year. And Kerwin Bosch is a player who I'd like to at least see in that squad. He's got a good head on his shoulders, Kerwin Bosch, and he has got that mind and that eye for a match and for a fight. Like he's gonna keep trying, he's gonna keep innovating, and he's gonna keep working. And he has a determination to him and an unbrittleness to him, a toughness to him that I like.
By the way, has Lambie retired?
Lambie, no, he's injured, I think.
Right. Because I was wondering where he is. I was going through all those.
But he hasn't been around all season.
Yeah. Because we're going like obviously Pollard's out as well, and that's hence all this talk of the Yankees and Kerwin Bosches of the world. But he's another one who should be in
terms of a Springbok prep this weekend. It certainly didn't endear me to some of those Lions players. They're quite good as a team, but they have frailties to them. That said, there were a few players who really did step up on a day where the team didn't.
Yes,
and these are players who belong in a Bok jersey, and you're talking about Jaco Creel and Malcolm Marks.
Yes, they were really quality. So good. Yeah, Malcolm Marks. This ongoing thing of just South African number twos being the best breed in the world. They're such total footballers. They're immense jacklers. Like his two steals in quick succession to get them out of their area. They were huge at the time that they came as well, and just a very dominant thing to do at that point. It was very much that kind of tussle, though. It was individuals doing individual moments to break the momentum of the Sharks a lot of the time.
Ross Cronje, I think it was Ross Cronje who did that tap and go for the Mapu try. That was good work as well. Good vision. That was a good try. Just attacking.
They needed it as well. Yeah.
And they did find the scores when they were given an opportunity. What I will say, though, is that the yellow card that gave them the opportunity, the Sharks had been building a lead. They had been controlling the game. That first half was an elegant performance from their halfbacks. A wonderful performance covering at fullback from Loazi and Vovo.
He actually had an immense game in Vovo.
He looked really nice at fullback, which was surprising. But when the yellow card came, I thought it was really harsh. I thought it was like a really weird thing, because the game had been filled with discipline from both sides. There wasn't a lot of penalties. The penalties that had come to the Sharks. The Lions got into their 22 and were attacking, and the arm came out advantage, offside, fair enough. Spoiled the attack, didn't score, and the ref runs back and gives a yellow card for an offside to a second row. And I just thought that was bizarre. And then they found, in the next 15 minutes, they found 3 tries. And I thought, like, that's a huge call. But that said, when the opportunity presented itself, they walked through, and they were really good. There were some really good performances. Andres Casilla was good coming into that line. And then Jaco Creel and Malcolm Marks, and actually Mosterk and the other try as well, did a really good job of stepping up when it mattered.
Yes, indeed, yeah. Auster, he's a very good player. Maybe not the best of those second rows we were talking about.
No, I don't think so either. I wouldn't pick him for the box.
No, but he's had a good season and he's been very impactful. He's another one who's very good at running with the ball. He's quite athletic. He runs kind of like a number 6 would, which is quite useful for them.
Yeah, dynamic as well. More quick than you'd think he would be. But he found a good try. But the Sharks hit back, and I was really impressed by that. They came back.
Yeah, the Sharks definitely had that attitude about them that day. They were super up for it, and the Lions were the ones who were doubting before the end. They really were. And
the Sharks never seemed to be. And the Sharks...
There was also a call for... It could have been a penalty. That last play. Seemed that there was a jackal there. It seemed like a legit steal, and it seemed like a kick.
Game ended with the Sharks in the 22 lines with the ball, and they were just passing it and trying to go. And then when teams are shutting down like that, the refs are under the instruction to give any penalty because that's seen as a negative way to play the game. And the ref, as he was all day, was just innocuous and weird, and just gave a ridiculous decision. Like he was on his feet, holding on. The Sharks players were screaming for it. He had the ball. He was not getting cleaned out. And then as he was getting cleaned out by 4 or 5, 6 players for 4 or 5, 6 seconds, eventually he fell down and had the ball in his stomach. And then the ref goes unplayable, scrum going forward. Yeah, that's an insane decision.
It's a crazy call.
Yeah, the Lions got really lucky, and I really credit to the Sharks for showing up.
And commiserations to them for that, because they have a right to feel, they were within their rights to feel aggrieved about that result, as much as you don't want to blame the ref.
What I will say though is, like, when they found the try, which was great, they got up the pitch, earned the yellow card, attacked the corner, got a penalty and attacked the corner, found the try, retook the lead. But then when they had the ball towards the end, they weren't really looking for scores. No, they did execute some good plays. That little grubber in behind by the replacement second row was excellent.
That was really good.
But then Luazi and Volvo sort of hesitated, and as much as I was complimenting him, he made like a really crucial mistake, and it felt to me like a game-losing mistake. They'd kicked the ball back to him. He was in the open field, and he just didn't know what to do with it. He thought about kicking, he thought about attacking, and he sort of sloppily went into contact and got driven back, presented the ball back, and stood up and was just in the way offside. And it looked like he lost his head. And unfortunately, that's why he probably won't start for the box. That's
probably not. He's a good weapon though, and he did impress me the whole game in terms, like, I did not picture him as that controlling influence from fullback. I really didn't. But that's what he was providing during the whole course of the game. He was really good at fielding. He was covering the area behind. Really, he's super quick, so he can cover a lot of ground in the backfield. But he was reading the game very well.
Also, shout out to Ruan Combrink.
What clutch from that man. He's a proper Springbok. We said it before, but like, he is everything you want in a Springbok. Even the look of him, the head on him, the big austere head on him, and the fact that he's such a huge giant of a man out there on that wing.
But a bit like Kerwin Bosch, he has that bit between his teeth and that grit for a big
bit of defiance about him. It's just it's very defiant. What I want to see in a Springbok is someone who's going to rough you up and not care about it.
And the way he put Ireland away in that second test, Ireland being in the lead in back in 2016 when Ireland were touring South Africa, and they were one test up, and they were in the lead, but it was in altitude, in Ellis Park in that second test.
And he has that weapon.
But he came off the bench and just bullied us and just got his hands and came looking for the ball, looking to get through players, and scored, or at least assisted or scored 2 tries that won them the game. And that was really quality Springboks rugby. And that's what you want to see going forward from them and from the Lions. Was that little bit of grit and that little bit of determination.
And that was something we still didn't see. And now, granted, they're at home against this oncoming challenge, and granted, the Hurricanes have had a tough... They've been on the road last week, they're on the road this week, they had a tough game the week before. But I think this is a team that has danger written all over it. Like, this is a game that has danger written all over it from a Lions point of view. I mean,
will they be helped by the test? I thought they would be.
They probably will be.
In advance of the game,
they have more work-ons for this week. They surely will be. The Sharks did provide what we were asking of them last week. It was just like, test them, please, so that they don't arrive. They're not going into a game against a New Zealand team completely cold.
Which would be unfair on them.
It would be, exactly. So the Lions feel they're probably in a better stead. They got through that game, even though they'll probably know in their hearts of hearts they didn't deserve it. And
they did and they didn't. In fact, like, their pack did earn more penalties.
That's
the Yankees missed. They earned more chances at scoring. They did score more tries.
Ultimately, that's true.
So a lot of that was down to Yankees versus Bosch, who was taking the chances. And Combrink actually missed one before he got his clutch penalty.
Yes, indeed.
So in one sense
They did leave a lot of points in terms of kicks. They left a lot of points on the pitch.
They probably didn't deserve to win it because they were behind on the board, and the Sharks did seem to find that poach. But on the other hand, they did do more with the ball. They did find more tries, and they did look that little bit above.
Yes, but that's also true. Is that like the Sharks have not looked on that level that the Canes have looked all season. So this is another step up in intensity for them, and they're going to be facing a team that are far more clinical in terms of their execution. When those errors are coming, I do back the Hurricanes to be able to pounce on them and finish them.
They don't have contentious opinion, but I don't know that their tight five is as tough as the Sharks, though.
Probably not, especially on a day like that when they were up for it and they were hitting and they were coming up. That may be true, but I mean in terms of the clinical nature of the team and just the varying ways that they can score against them, there is a lot to fear with the Canes coming to town.
It's an interesting game.
It is, and
preview it in due course, but
indeed,
it's certainly an interesting game, and it's good. There's a lot of different ways it can look.
But we have one more game to review as well, recap, which was a great game. I thought it was probably the most entertaining of all the games.
I certainly agree with that.
Yeah, Stormers Chiefs, a great test for the Chiefs. The Stormers did bring it, and similar enough, they were slightly lesser in terms of the caliber they had across the park, and that did ultimately tell in the second half.
There was some really great play from the Stormers in this game. I liked a lot of what they did. I'm starting to feel a little optimistic about South African rugby. Yeah, I think the pieces of a good team
they have so many really good players still, which is like, it's not the same as the concerns Australian rugby has, where there's just nothing coming up from underneath, and once this generation goes, who are the next ones and are they elite? Whereas with South Africa, like, loads of them. They have around 20 different 15s that are all really good.
Yeah, it's just like in Australian rugby, you're like, come on, Checker, surely make something of this mess. Whereas with Coetzee, it's like, come on, put the pieces together. Indeed. They're here.
Yeah, indeed. Use them, please. And that's still a question mark. I still don't entirely rate Coetzee. I don't think he's an innovator in this game at all. I don't think he's thinking on that level at all.
No.
But the players are all proper, and the second row battle was immense here. Yeah, I thought it was.
And I thought it was
game.
won by the Stormers.
Yeah.
Peter, Steph, and Eben Etzebeth did a really great job at line-out time. Did a great job around the breakdown.
Mitchell Brown was showing up in that first half particularly. He was trying very hard, obviously, to get an impact, but he made a fair few errors, and he wasn't as impactful at line out time because he's more of a loose forward than anything else.
First thing that happened in the game, they kicked off and the Chiefs were shooting down those Stormers players, and forced a kick from Willemse that was not a great kick, and earned a tackle line out for the Chiefs, and then the Stormers shot out of the line and smashed them twice.
Brody Retallick getting crunched by Khaleesi.
Got curved by Khaleesi, exactly that.
Yeah.
And
that happened 3 or 4 times throughout the game, that exact collision. Like, Khaleesi had a measure of him.
Khaleesi had the bit between his teeth and wanted to go for him, wanted to test himself, because there were times during that France South Africa tour where he looked like the only elite forward on the pitch. Yeah, he looked that much better than what was around him, and considering what he had been before, which is like a reasonable impact player, he really has
been a step up in this even in the latter part of this season. It's 100%, been huge. He's been immense
since he got into that Bok team. He has been really good. And his work rate around the park was extraordinary. He was everywhere, in defence especially.
He's reminding you of an Itoje type. He's just one of those super athletes who can go all day. Where he is in his career now is just that he's going to be roving around the pitch, and he can keep moving at that intensity all day.
At the start of the season, there was no way I would have thought this was true. But Sia Khaleesi is almost my first name on the Bok jersey. He's this like Serpentine, and Khaleesi would be my first 2 names down in the Bok jersey, followed perhaps by Malcolm Marks. Everywhere else is contentious. But Khaleesi plays, and that's it. You know.
He's very, very important to what the Stormers were doing here. He's that grit, that attrition. Certainly, those impacts. He made 3 or 4 huge hits on Retallick alone.
The Dragons
he was a huge
are growing.
Which is he going to?
Khaleesi pun.
Oh right. I thought for a second that he was going to the Dragons. Oh my God, could you imagine? No.
Bernard Jackman rubbing his hands together.
Going, yes, it's all coming together now.
Jackman would make a better player of him, I think.
Possibly would.
That,
but he's definitely was immense. Etzebeth was also good. Peter Steph Toit also good. That's some combo. That probably should be.
They did a job on them at line-out time. Yeah. For much of that game, they did a job on them at line-out time.
It was pretty flawless work at the set piece. Oh no, it wasn't flawless. They were overthrew a couple.
They did, but it was actually on the Chiefs' ball that they nicked a couple, and Peter Steph especially was actually leading which is new for Etzebeth being led.
Yeah.
But he was doing a really good job. He looked in control, and he just looked like bigger and stronger and like more graceful almost than everyone around him at that height. He just looked like a different animal when he had the ball. It was an interesting sight. And,
it is. It was definitely true that some of those attributable advantages that we were given to Brody and the like were offset and matched by this Stormers pack. They were there like, man for man. They lined up very well.
Perhaps Itoje and Cruz in England, or Itoje and Launchbury in England. There really isn't another battle in world rugby that's up there with that. Like with Peter Steff and Etzebeth going up against Retallick. And perhaps if you took to Sam Whitelock,
it shouldn't have been Mitchell Brown though. It should have been Dominic Bird. And they suffered for the lack of a Dominic Bird for huge parts of that game. I felt
brought him on at 73 minutes.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, which was bizarre to me. He was the glue that they needed. And he was also, you could have matched them. Then I definitely thought that was a mistake, and it's one they've repeated this week. They're going with Mitchell Brown again.
I like Dave Rennie a lot, but and Kieran Keane and the boys. But
I'm still throwing question marks.
Still a little question mark over that decision, and perhaps like rare for me, but perhaps it's almost more gung ho. We want to move the ball, we want to attack. Than even I would be comfortable with. I would like a bit of a controlling.
I know. Well, they have so much of that around the park that it feels excessive and unnecessary. like and
they were a little bit wanting of a Charlie Natai against the Stormers. Like Stephen Donald obviously made a couple of great plays.
He did, and that he seemed to scarcely believe when they came, when the sea just parted and suddenly he was in the open field. And he did throw a little bit of a sloppy pass,
there was a wonderful look in his face on that first play because he was he was loving it.
The smile of a younger man.
but he threw that ball in touch, and there was a real try on there.
I know,
which is a shame. But they obviously had a lot of width. They obviously had a lot of chances to get Mackenzie into the game, to get Cruden into the game, and Cruden found that try with that elegant pass.
Yeah, they kicked very well as well, the boys, Mackenzie and Cruden. They found some really good space. They found grass consistently in the backfield.
They sort of managed their way around a game where their pack had been beaten.
Yeah.
But certainly in attack, we talk about their backline. Very often we talk about their backline being the most balanced. And that Donald decision, we sort of noticed it midway through the podcast last week as we were looking through the sides. It's like, oh, Stephen Donald. And certainly without Charlie Natai, there was a little imbalance there, just a little lack of punch and gusto.
Albeit those two breaks were very punchy and gustoful.
Very punchy and gusto. But
I wonder, he was probably top of the meters made or near top based off those two. Yeah. But they're like, he's definitely. It's again excessive. Like, they have distributors enough in that team. They need a little bit more direction, more at 12, more so than that.
Natai and Leonard Brown work well together.
Yeah, they do. There's a little bit of that telepathy.
A bit like the Hurricanes. It's like we're finally into semi-final mode. We have the full team together.
Yeah, I feel like New Zealanders are starting to appreciate that. That is a distinction with difference always in terms of having the centers versus the second 5'8" center notion. I think like they're realizing that telepathy amongst the two boys in the middle and a little bit of understanding through game time together is invaluable. Really, like that chemistry needs to be there. They
did have it for years with Nono and
indeed
Smith,
exactly.
But outside of them, they never really did have it. Although what I will say is, in defense, invaluable. In attack, I almost think these days that a 10-12 can be more dangerous and can be better. But when you have a Mackenzie in your team from fullback doing that job from fullback, then comes the necessity of the centre combination, and that's what Natai and Leonard Brown can offer.
Yes,
because you're not going to struggle to get the ball wide with Mackenzie on the pitch. You're just not. He's not going to be poached out wide. He's going to be coming in. He's going to be helping out Cruden, and so
it means it frees Cruden up to be able to either carry or kick or pass because he knows that it's covered.
Also just like it also prevents the shooter. The narrow shooter that really defined a lot of old style defenses of bull rushing a 10 can't really be done with the two distributors and
the fact that everyone's working this screen system as well means that you're just never going to reach it and you're going to cripple your own line.
But you can change the point of where you're going to kick it as well, which is obviously a huge weapon when you're in your own 22. You can go Cruden and shift it to Mackenzie and then get the kick away. So there's a lot of value to it. And Mackenzie is never wanting for work, so he's going to come in and find that ball no matter what's going on the pitch. And he did a great job today, himself and Cruden, of just finding territory, because I didn't think Sam McCain had a good game. I actually think he was comprehensively outplayed by his opponent in Sia Khaleesi.
He's up against Matt Todd now. All Black
up
ones.
against Matt Todd. He's had a great season, Sam Cane, but since that maybe second and third test, after an exceptional first test against the Lions, he's perhaps just gone a little bit down. Maybe only to come back up, perhaps. You don't know. He's a great player.
Yeah,
but
and
certainly in this game,
is semi-final
what I was
time.
impressed with was that Chiefs backline, just as opposed to just the frenetic Highlander stuff or Hurricane stuff sometimes, where it's always like attack. It's like our crossfield kick's being beaten, we're going to crossfield kick again, as it was against the Crusaders earlier in the season. There's a real there's thinking going on. Always.
You get that feeling that even when they're a little lateral and things are being stopped, they're still trying to change that and manipulate the space enough to find out where the chance is. There are thinkers out there thinking.
It's the antithesis of what's going on with the Highlanders, which is like was really rigorously stuck to their game plan against the Crusaders. But the Chiefs, even when it's not working, they're not doing that. They're always trying things. They're always thinking about where space is. And then when the break did come, the support was there. And Cruden actually was just a little knock on from Cruden from a slightly inaccurate offload from James Lowe. That prevented that one break that happened in the second half from being a try. But as soon as the break was there, the support was there.
Exactly.
And those inside support runners.
Unlike the Crusaders, they're running for support and they're running to score tries. Indeed, they're looking for killer passes. They're looking to try and score that phase, which is why they're so comfortable going coast to coast.
Certainly makes this week really interesting because it is that Crusaders defense against that
weapon that is
that
Chiefs
probably if not the most dangerous backline, which it probably is, then at least like the most thoughtful and engaged and like problem solving backline in the competition. I definitely think that's true. I think with ball in hand, their instincts are all good, and I'm very impressed with them. I like the freedom they have to play in their jerseys as well. Another typifies Dave Rennie, which is going to be great for Glasgow going forward. And
it just encourages players to express themselves on the pitch, which is much better, I think, overall than just drilling them into the do your job mindset and that kind of philosophy, which I feel like is a lot of what the Crusaders are at right now, especially in terms of their multi-phase.
I think the All Blacks have a touch of that right now.
They do,
Crusaders
Ireland
do.
Ireland
Ireland certainly do.
This whole do your job mindset and don't take risks, but the mistakes are zoomed in on, highlighted, and you're made feel guilty about. Whereas I prefer to, like, obviously, if you made a mistake, you look at it, but don't lean on that. Don't make that discourage you from taking the risk the next time if the try is on, because the try is on. You need to be going for it.
I remember once Joe Schmidt, there was like a story of Joe Schmidt with Chris Henry. Do you remember that in the first one of Sexton's tries?
Oh yeah, it was the advantage thing where it was like, why did you throw that offload? And he's like, oh, because we had advantage. He's like, we didn't have advantage. But it was an offload that a try came from.
So Joe was essentially criticising Chris Henry for throwing a pass that made a try. And you're like, I wonder, Joe.
Hopefully
he's going to move in the right direction. But that has been a stalwart of great teams that we've enjoyed in the past. Do your job. Don't make errors. Limit the errors. Be focused. Be this unit. This well-drilled
and this
unit,
notion that that's what knockout rugby is all about.
This well-oiled machine that's going to cruise to victory. As opposed to the Chiefs, which very much does value thinking on the pitch from everybody, not from like a senior lieutenant like Sexton gets to make all the decisions. But no, if James Lowe wants to come in and really fancies a weakness that he sees, he can do that. And that's what that's a direction that I would like to see World Rugby go. So but certainly it paints an interesting contrast in ideology this week, which is going to be a really fun game to watch.
I definitely am looking forward to it. I suppose we can probably move on to our preview section then, because the two games coming up are they're doozies. So this first one is the all New Zealand clash of Crusaders Chiefs, which I'm like the people. I want the Chiefs to win. For New Zealand rugby, I want the Chiefs to win because I don't want this unstoppable juggernaut that has been the Crusaders this season. I do not want them to make it all the way, because I think it behooves New Zealand to be thinking more like the Chiefs are and playing more like the Chiefs are. It behooves the All Blacks to be doing that.
I think personnel-wise, you look through the pack and the Crusaders are on top. But that doesn't mean they're ideologically on top. And that's sort of the direction that it seems to be shifting. But like, if we want to keep it 100 here, like, the All Blacks, personnel-wise, probably should have won the series 3-0. As much as I admire and like what the Lions did. Like, not winning that series should have been a big lesson. I would hope it would be, because and I think a lot of it is. Look at these players like Cody Taylor, Scott Barrett, Sam Whitelock, Kieran Reid, like the whole backline. Jordan Taufua is a runner with the ball.
Yeah.
Like all of those guys can be taught and can learn to look for space, to get players like Crotty and Goodhue and Dag into the game, Tanavalu. There's certainly no reason why they can't play like the Chiefs play and play like the Hurricanes play and play looking for tries.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's always been that opportunity for it to come back to bite them. It did against the Canes, and I think they don't seem to have changed. Well, again, it was raining.
It was raining. It's hard to. That's why it was such a hard one to break down. It's just that is a very mitigating factor in terms of you don't quite know what the initial plan was before the rain came down, and then this is what the game is going to be.
It won't be raining.
No, apparently not.
Yeah, it won't be raining tomorrow.
2% chance of precipitation down there. So
wonderful.
Good, beautiful. We'll have some good running rugby, and that means danger time for the Crusaders, I think, because as we get into the business end of the season, and just looking how Charlie Natai's back, Tim Nanai-Williams is back on the wing as well. There's just there's such a diversity of attack from that whole back line. And the forwards as well, like even Michael Leach loves getting his hands on the ball. Messam was immense last week as well. He made the game-ending contribution in that steal.
Earlier in the season, the Crusaders did an interesting thing against the Chiefs. They undercommitted at the breakdown. They didn't commit at all at the breakdown. They found out, and they did an outside first blitz. So it was not really a shooter defense so much. It was an outside first blitz. And the Chiefs, they are the Chiefs. They thought their way around it, and they found 3 tries. And it was actually a really great day from Cruden. Mackenzie was sort of shut down out wide, and Cruden cut in a few times with James Lowe coming in on an inside angle, or with Messam coming in on an inside angle. I think a couple of those tries were, and he found gaps on the inside. Yeah, looked in field and did sort of clever things. Yeah, a bit like the All Blacks in that first test. Again, that sort of imagination and problem solving against a great defense is going to be invaluable. Indeed. Whatever the Crusaders do, if they stick to their rigid sort of push up and shoot.
But I also feel I'm curious because like the Crusaders are obviously have a load of All Blacks as well. They're great players, but there is a hint of that. We've seen that before with these teams, whereby if they go behind, are they getting themselves back into the game? And are they breaking down?
Figure out how to find tries.
Yeah.
One of the things about the Chiefs, like I don't know that the Chiefs' defense is as elite as Crusaders. I don't think it is.
I don't think it is, and I think there are tries for the Crusaders to take. But if they're not looking for them, or if they're happy to take the 3 points after 19 phases of picking jams in the opponent's second half, like that 6 or 9 point lead can be eroded very, very quickly by this Chiefs team.
I think the Chiefs are going to find tries. That's like so. If the Crusaders want to win, they're going to have to find tries. I think the Chiefs will find at least 2 tries in this game. I think they're imaginative, they're clever.
They're just dangerous all around. Like all of their players can run in the open field. To be honest, like even their front rows are mobile.
So they have got an elite back row, but that back row battle is going to be immense. It's a huge.
It need a big game from the likes of Michael Leach now as well, and because he's been one who. I think he's just getting a little old. He's
Messam
great.
too.
Messam too, actually, yeah. Although he did make that great play at the end of the game last week, but he just doesn't have the same energy level that he used to, which is understandable.
Sam Kane has a big job to do, and so does Brodie Retallick in the second row up against like his 2 competitors, but not competitors.
And Mitchell Brown's been put back in. He needs to have a better game than last week. He'll know in his heart of hearts as well that he was
it's
one
a
of the
job to do. It's a really tough job to do, to compete on the level of Scott Barrett and Sam Whitelock together in the form that they're in.
Yeah, and it's one of these things we what was it? It was during the Heineken Cup where we were criticising some of the selections in terms of line out things. During the Six Nations as well. Just our line out options, like we were complimenting Sam Whitelock on his dominance of that area. I wonder if the Chiefs are going to struggle the same way. Are they going to have a couple of balls pilfered? Are they going to even like their line out maul will never get set up? It'll be sloppy and disrupted.
This is the job of the Chiefs pack. If they can provide their backline with any amount of clean ball, there's going to be real chances for the Chiefs to win the game. So they need that platform of just some clean ball. We said last week 40% would be enough for the Highlanders. Possibly quite true again this week.
It's similar.
The Highlanders
I think it's similar in terms of just. I definitely think the Chiefs are the more potent of the 2 teams.
The other thing is that they're going to be given a more stern test and a much better game by the boot of the Chiefs. They are not going to be as poor in their kicking game
as the Highlanders
were. Like Mackenzie and Cruden and even Carballo are elite
have
players
good
and are
kick,
very good at, but they're not kicking for kicking's sake. They're kicking because they see space.
Yes,
and their space is going to be not where Dag
and
is,
if they're
but where
employing an outside shooter system again, there's definitely space for kicking. Like, you know,
not just even cross kicks, but deep kicks, kicks for territory. They're good at them. They're good at controlling a game. Those two, Mackenzie and
there's a great telepathy between them. They actually, I think, they free each other up a lot and provide each other with a lot of space and time with ball in hand.
And neither would be. Like it's almost the two halves are greater than the whole, and the wholes are both pretty great, you know. So there's a real weapon there, even without ball in hand, even with the boot. So there's going to be space, possibly in behind Tamani Valu, to kick into. I wouldn't be risking kicking towards Dag again after last week's performance. He was exceptional. It's
not a recipe for anything good, I find, is kicking it down Dag's throat aimlessly and allowing him time to run back at you. It's a silly thing to do.
His game was on point last week as well.
Exactly. And he has a very big long boot as well, which I think offsets that sometimes as well.
But they have diversity in their attack. And Charlie Nyatai and Anton Leonard-Brown
bring that balance back.
Are really quality, and actually probably like a little bit better than their counterparts, who are the strongest aspect of the Crusaders' attack in Crotty and Goodhue. Although that is another massive battle that could go either way.
It did, indeed. In fact, I think they could end up shutting each other down. I'm not sure if there'll be that many inroads to be made in those midfields.
The Crusaders' defence is going to be about shutting Mackenzie down and about like hassling Cruden and shutting Mackenzie down, and that might give him a bit of freedom to the
maybe Leonard-Brown. Leonard-Brown was a little bit quiet last week. He had some one or two good little touches, but a little bit less impactful
Stephen
on the
Donald
game.
On his inside, like
that was it. It was a little bit of a disconnect, which was bound to happen. It was the same with having Jordy Barrett at 13. It's just disruption of that order, because like the centres are ones that in the modern game, when the tries are being scored out in the tram lines, a lot of the times you're kind of nearly missing out on some of the subtle work that the centres are doing if you're not looking. But definitely when you find that it's disrupted, like when it's all going well, that means the wingers are running in like unencumbered in the wing, but as soon as that stops happening, when they disrupt that centre partnership and the distribution isn't quite as crisp, there's just not that same trust. There's no way of throwing a no-look pass with the guy that hasn't been outside you. So it's good to see Nyatai back, and just the whole Chiefs team that they've been building for this whole season are now out on the pitch and able to throw everything at it, and they'll need to, because the Crusaders have been immense. It's like we're nitpicking away at them and we're harping on about them not being clinical, but they have been clinical in the sense that they've won all but two of their games this season, one of which was against the British and Irish Lions. Like they've been immense.
And you look at that team, like it's Kieran Reid in his top form.
He's playing amazing
at his best. It's Sam Whitelock at his best.
Even Joe Moody, Cody Taylor playing some really good rugby.
Frank's doing really solid. Like they're solid in the scrum. They're excellent at the line out. They got Wyatt Crockett to come off the bench then as well.
That's one. There could be I would not be surprised to see the Crusaders trying to scrum for penalties a lot of the time this game.
They've also got like a Luke Romano to come off the bench. Obviously, that's a little bit countered by having Dominic Bird on the bench. I'd say there's parity there. But certainly their bench is not going to weaken their pack too much.
No.
And if they can bully that Chiefs pack and just win those little battles, the back row battle, the second row battle, which they're favourites to win.
And the first 20 minutes will be the most telling for how those battles are going. Those battles are established.
The difference is, even if they do that, even if they dominate the way they dominated the Highlanders, the way they've dominated all season, the Chiefs won't go down without firing a bolt or two. And those bolts will come. Whenever they come, they're going to come. So the Crusaders, when they're dominant, are going to actually have to find scores in a way that they perhaps didn't against the Highlanders.
And so you were just looking for that recognition in them that this is the time, even if it's 6 minutes into the first half, they're going, this is the time, we need to score a try. I'd love to see that from them, because that's something that we've not been seeing. We've been seeing too content to just go
as good as the Chiefs backline is. It's like it's a very good defense, very competent defense, but it's your bog standard New Zealand defense, Super Rugby team defense, which is a high standard by any bar. But it's a standard that the Crusaders obviously can score tries against and have been this
and
season.
Are familiar with as well. It's a look to a defence that they're familiar with and they'll be planning for.
So there's going to be room. There's going to be room to attack. There's going to be room for Crotty and Goodhue to get on the ball. There's going to be room for Tamalavalu, for Dag, for all of these guys who are weapons. So if they can do that, if they can dominate, if they can get 60% of the ball, if they can disrupt the Chiefs' set piece, and then find the tries when they're there, they will have a good time in this game. But the Chiefs are going to find tries. They're going to attack. They're going to attack with versatility. They're going to attack with thought.
And speed as well.
So if the Crusaders are settling for 3-pointers, if it's 3-0, 6-0, 9-0, all of a sudden it could be 9-7 out of nowhere, even though there's no game going on.
Yeah.
And then that could be a half-time score that the Chiefs would be really comfortable with.
Yeah, indeed.
So,
and just you're looking at it going like, wait, hang on, we're scoring in 7-pointers. This is the New Zealand ethos. It's like that's what happens when you score in 3-pointers.
Yep.
So yeah, no, it's a fascinating game, and I'm glad it's not going to be raining, so we won't have a repeat of last week's other fascinating fixture that we were salivating about. At this point last week, we were contemplating the all New Zealand clash, going, whoa.
I think
we didn't get to see
even
that
last week. There's a recognition of us that, like, I think there needs to be from every fan
Mm-hmm.
who's sort of paving the way for the Crusaders, that the Chiefs is a big step up from the Islanders.
Indeed.
Chiefs are a really good team.
This is that's been the talk surrounding this that I've been reading or seeing or anything is I'm not all that comfortable with the confidence people have in stating that the Crusaders it's a done deal, that they're already going there, even though sure it's at home. I've been really skeptical about that, and the Lions too. They're saying that this Crusaders Lions is
a little more
thing.
skepticism about the Lions overseeing the Hurricanes. A lot of New Zealand fans have been talking about the Hurricanes doing a job on them like they did last year.
Might do. I think that's going to happen, to be honest. But in this one, we're sticking to our guns and saying that the Chiefs are going to win this tournament, and
I certainly am. Yeah,
I am as well. I think they are the most balanced team. They're a team I really want to see win because I think they play very pure form of rugby and they play it very, very well. I'm also gutted to see that it's a team that's gone. We're not going to see that team again.
No Carvalho, no Cruden, possibly no McKenzie, no Hicka Elliott. Obviously,
possibly no McKenzie. I thought that was a done deal.
I'm not sure if it's a done deal. I haven't seen it anywhere official yet.
All right.
So no,
Leicester
certainly
Tigers.
No Carvalho, no Cruden, no.
Carvalho's to Racing. Yeah. Cruden. Where's Cruden?
Cruden is gone to Europe somewhere, I think. Yeah, I've known that for a while.
Yeah,
but
it's a team that's going to be completely overhauled and changed.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously no Dave Rennie or Kieran Keane.
Yeah,
it's the last swan song of this great Chiefs team.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see them do it. I think they deserve it. I think they're really
they're a joy to watch.
Team
they're a joy to watch.
They have the right attitude and they do have the parts.
Yeah, and that's really in terms of framing a narrative about this game. I think for New Zealand rugby, it's good guys v bad guys in favour of Chiefs v Crusaders, because I want no, it's not. It's not good guys bad guys in that sense, but good guys bad guys in the sense that I want the Chiefs' way of playing rugby and the Chiefs' ideas to be proven right with the result more so than the Crusaders. I want the Crusaders to be proven wrong in what they're doing by the Chiefs.
Yeah,
and that's where I come down on it. I want to see New Zealand rugby encouraging and cultivating this culture. It is
a legitimate argument that hasn't been solved yet. Obviously, we're on the side of this sort of individualism, libertarianism in our rugby.
We don't need to make it political, man.
We want to
get pulled.
Yeah, we want to see we're demonetized.
Yeah,
we want to see like players like McKenzie encouraged to play.
Yeah,
and we do think that just instead of manufacturing the tries in your analysis, like figuring out where the tries are. There's a hole here. There's going to be a try there. We're going to have this guy right here, this guy right here.
This, and then the try will be there.
Putting the ingredients in the players to find the tries themselves, teaching them to fish.
Yes,
instead of
yeah, that's a good one.
It's
a perfect analogy. But then, that's what you find with it when multi-phases aren't being effective. I think
more and more in New Zealand rugby is the multi-phase being shut down. Defences have taken a step up in recent years.
Definitely.
And the attacks probably haven't.
Yeah, the attacks, there's a little bit more of an impetus on the first 5 phases type thing. It's like there's this, then this, then this, then this, then this. And then ideally in your playbook, that's where the try has happened already. But if you're in the game and there's no try and now it's phase 6 and we've made 3 yards, there's sometimes a lot of headless play.
And what a lot of teams will do, like what the Crusaders will do, and it's a stalwart in any rugby team these days, they have a reset play, start again, boom, 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 instead of having the players do the thinking, having thought be about where's the space. And that's what we see in the Chiefs team, and I really do hope it works out for them. But that said, if you look personnel wise, pack v pack, they're a little bit better, the Crusaders, everywhere. So even in that second row, Brodie Retallick obviously is probably the best in the world. But against Whitelock and Barrett, I don't think the maths add up in the Chiefs' favour. Same is true of the front row.
Especially with Mitchell Brown in there, I still question that call. Much as I do like when, from a coach, like a player manager kind of point of view, he had a poor game, scold him, put him back out there, maybe he'll have a huge game. You don't know. It's a tough call to make, but I do think they will struggle for the lack of a Dominic Bird, particularly at line out and maul time, because Like I don't expect them to be trying to go to the maul too often as a way to score tries, but as a way to tie up the forwards, yeah, and give space to the backs, yeah. So you need non-sloppy ball, and Retallick is good in the maul. Obviously, he's very, very elite, but
he sort of pioneered the modern defensive mauling tactic.
But I'm struggling. Like that will be a struggle. It's a tussle I'm interested in seeing, and it'll involve people like Mitchell Brown specifically stepping up and having a huge game. Because they are outmatched.
If you had to force a call from me, I'd say that the Crusaders do dominate, but because it's a principled call that I do think the Chiefs will find 3 tries, and the Crusaders will find 1 and a few kicks, and the Chiefs will see it out by 20 something to 10 something, or possibly 20 big to 20 small.
Could be.
Hopefully. This is like ideal games.
We're fantasizing. This is just the dream scenarios.
Well, it's good weather.
But there are reasons for it. I can see those paths to victory. I see the Chiefs being able to score more varied ways. They have more varied and numerous ways of scoring.
From selfish, neutral, wanting to watch a fan point of view, I think that the picture painted by a Chiefs victory would be a prettier picture than a picture painted by a Crusaders victory.
Definitely true. To see those, I don't want to see those Mackenzie knock-ons in the last 10 minutes when he's trying some stuff because they're 7 points down or 8 points down or something. And you're just getting smothered out of the game and then being bundled into touch. And but it could happen that way.
The defense could shut them down because as much as a thoughtful team they are, like they do go for things, and then when you go for things and it goes wrong, it can be expensive.
Yes, yeah.
But the question is, are the Crusaders going to be competent enough to punish those mistakes with tries, or are they just going to give them another chance to go? Because if they give them enough chances to go, the Chiefs will find tries. Yeah, I maintain that.
Yeah, I think that is what it is about. We'll be like watching the first 20 minutes to see if there is that clinical side to the Crusaders, or just that impetus to go, that recognition that it's go time now. It's semi-final time. Let's score. Let's win. Yeah, that's what we want to see from them. And if we do, then we won't begrudge them either. There's no begrudge. Actually, like, to be honest, I do like all the teams that are left. I think they've been really good.
There's nobody who has no business being there.
That's true. I think it's a very worthy top 4 in the context of the whole league and the whole season. And they're still, as we said, with the last 8 as well, we were saying they were deserving too, and also very different looks. I like the teams who have ended up in here as well. Still very different, interesting matchups to come. And on paper, they're all so elite and so like slight little nuanced variance in terms of how they play the game in each position. It's fascinating. It's fascinating, and hopefully they get like. That's the obviously the Lions game. It'll be great and sunny and grand and a perfect day for running rugby and rugby in general.
I mean, it is winter over there. I'm going to Google it.
I think I read that, but yeah, we can check that now. Johannesburg. I would imagine it will be though. It's normally
say some
is.
Things, I'm gonna
normally is, but there's going to be some elite level rugby played, and I suppose we'll look, since we're looking at the weather, we'll move on to the next game, which is immense. Also 19
degrees and sunny.
Perfect.
What is South Africa? it's January.
It's not though. But I think they're just sweltering. But it'll be, as I say, perfect sunny running conditions or kicking conditions or whatever you want to do with the ball conditions. It'll be perfect for all the teams. So
that helps the Canes. No rain, no problem.
Much as the Lions are used to playing there, and will have the support.
Well, the Lions want to play running rugby too.
They do,
but
I fear for them.
Likely to be
I fear for them.
By the rain.
This one now, I think the Canes are going to win, and I think the Canes are going to win by around 10 points.
Well, that's a big call.
I think that's going to happen. I have had it in my head now for the last little while of a New Zealand team turning up and spoiling the Lions party, and the Lions being outmatched and being, it's like when you watch any kind of fight or something where a great striker's just beaten to every punch and just slow, late always, wrong always, outmatched always, and ultimately beaten. I can see that happening here because I feel like what they're doing in attack is more risky than they've been punished or than they've been allowed to discover by the opposition they've been put against. I think the Canes are more used to being in these close contests, will find tries much quicker than them. I fear for them. I fear for them in this game, more so than the other one. I think is more of a coin toss on the day, how it goes. But this one, I actually think the Canes are a better team.
I'm much more skeptical about that. I gotta say, I don't know.
I do like their chances in the pack, sure, but
I still maintain what I've been saying all season about the Lions, which is that I still don't really know like what's that purring Lions looks like on a day when they're matched with a really good team. they've got some really great players. What I will say is they do have a tendency to leak tries against soft opposition. So they leak tries they have no business leaking. Like the Southern Kings score soft tries against them, and that's a concern, even when they're winning 59-22, because they're not going to get 59 points against the Hurricanes. But the Hurricanes might find a lot. Like if their defence is as passive as some South African defences were for much of the mid-season.
Theirs have been as well. They've been guilty of it, as guilty as anyone else, of being flat in the line, not pushing forward. Mapu staying where he is.
Yeah.
It's
one of the reasons why I wouldn't have Mapu anywhere near a Bok jersey. I don't think he's an elite defender. And certainly the Hurricanes, like they have been this season the most potent team in front of the line. They know how to find tries. They've obviously got their back line is back to shape. They've got Milner-Skudder on the wing. They've got Barrett at fullback. They've got Asso at centre. Interestingly enough, they've gone for Hudson, who is in serious form, over Sevilla, and kicked Corey Jane off the 23.
I want to see Corey Jane. We want to see Corey Jane.
We do want to see Corey Jane. We like Corey Jane.
Yeah, he's great.
Ottery Black is a good man to have on the bench.
He was very impressive in the final game of the season, of the regular season, and he seems to have grown. It's a good place to be learning your trade, understudy for Bowden.
You could have Corey Jane in there and Ottery Black and just abandon your scrum half replacement, because who are you kidding? You're not taking TJ.
You're not taking TJ off until he gets knocked.
Well, then you're putting Milner-Skudder in there.
Milner-Skudder at scrum half.
It could work. It could work.
Yeah.
It wouldn't
Geordie
be too
Barrett.
bad.
Just put a Geordie Barrett everywhere.
But in a general sense, Hurricanes could certainly find tries, and that could certainly be the shape of the game. What I will say though is, like, Lousy and Abbott in the second row for the Canes.
That's true too.
You look at the fundamentals, like the real old school way of looking at a team: scrum, line out. I think there's some chance that the Lions are on top of all of them. Yeah. Breakdown included. You got Ackerman and Jaco Creel.
And Marks.
And Malcolm Marks at the breakdown is going to be a huge asset.
Yeah.
So Dane Coles is obviously an extra addition to a backline.
It'll mean Fafita needs to step up, I guess, because
Fafita and Shields and Ardie Sevilla, very competent players, but are they as good as those Lions players on
it's
form?
A question mark. It is a question mark. I like the presence of that Ardie will bring. I think he'll match them physically. I think he'll make some really good carries. Shields as well. Shields is industrious in that area. I just think they'll need to be a shift in focus in terms of retaining ball and doing so quickly and elegantly, so that you can get Bowden into the game. And
I definitely think TJ is a
spoiled.
good man to have when the pack might be going a little backwards.
Definitely.
Because a lot of what he's going to be doing is just get the ball into Bowden's hands. Bowden's going to have Dane Coles out there. He's going to have the boys, Asso and Lamape, top try scorers.
Ardie Sevilla somewhere in those channels out wide as well.
Yeah, 100%. And then you've got your Milner-Skudders and your Hussons and your Geordie Barretts to bring into the game.
Yeah, so many weapons. So many weapons.
Lions have weapons too. Even like Skossan, very quiet last week. Very quiet, really. The week before, he's
still a very good. He's
a
very, very good finisher. Put him in space and watch him finish a try.
Yeah. Very lightning quick.
Yeah,
Andreas could see it.
He's matched up against Milner-Skudder though, who is also lightning quick.
But again, Milner-Skudder can fall off a tackle, and then that's Skossan in space.
Yeah.
So there are these little paths to victory. Andres Coetzee is a good man to step in as a distributor.
Coetzee is a very good player. He's actually a really good calming influence. He's everything you would want Yankees to have in terms of temperament. You'd want Yankees to have that temperament
just to always look like he has time. And
time and space on the ball, and even when he's tackled, it's no big deal, and it's presented elegantly. There's no frenetic nature to it.
Are the Hurricanes going to do a blitz defense? You don't really see it from them, and is that what's needed to shut down the Lions' attack? And if it is, are they going to do it competently?
I would say they would be more likely to go for a little shooter buzz, trying to read the game.
Well, who's going to play that game? Vince Asso?
Probably Asso. Yeah. I think it would be trusting him to make the call and make the hit. Maybe Geordie as well if he's up in the defensive line.
He won't be. He'll be back at fullback.
Unless they're rotating the role between him and Scudder and mixing that up, Because
in defence, that makes a lot of sense to have Geordie slot in at 13 to maybe push Asso out and have Milner-Skudder fill in at fullback with maybe Bowden.
Yeah, I would reckon that'll be what they do, just because of the physicality that Geordie brings. And
if you do have Geordie leading the defensive line, that certainly is a path to victory. But I'm not like you. I don't see this as clear cut. Obviously,
it's not quite clear cut. No, it still could go the other way. But what I reckon, it's only my reckoning, that that they will end up scoring more tries and winning.
I gotta be honest and say I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I see a lot of different games.
I still have a big question mark over this Lions team, and it is just that we were harping on about it last week. Just we don't know yet. They haven't seen them in the cauldron, in the pit. We haven't seen what happens when push comes to shove. Yeah. And even they were tested by a plucky Sharks team, but that Sharks team are not on this level yet. But so,
as I was saying earlier, I think their tight five might even be a little better. Those young second rows, those 24, 25-year-old second rows. It's a young Sharks team, but they put in an elite level forward performance.
Yes.
And even though they did cause the Lions a lot of problems, the Lions still earned more penalties, still got the edge at certain key moments, and ultimately sort of won the game in that they provided enough opportunities for Yankees to win them the game. But like, are the Hurricanes going to match that physicality? Are the Hurricanes going to get enough ball to do damage? But then the other question mark is the Lions' defence at all competent? Are the Hurricanes just is it going to be porous? Are the Hurricanes just going to be loving life with ball in hand? And obviously you're not going to have much chance to exert physical pressure on a team if you're going backwards. So it's a game that can take many shapes, and I'm not sure what it's going to.
I'm questioning as much as you're talking about who's leading the defensive line for the Hurricanes. I'm wondering that with Lions. I'm scratching my head. I'm looking at Lionel Mappo in the midfield, and I'm thinking holes. I'm thinking time for attackers to run onto the gain line. Loads of space and time for Milner-Skudder or Jordy Barrett or Houston out wide. I think
Dane
Coles in the wide channels doing immense damage, and TJ coming. I do back this Canes side now to find a few more tries than they've been so clinical all game.
It has the potential to be a really high scoring game.
It does.
It has the potential to be back and forth, try for try, because both attacks have looked elite and both defenses have looked questionable.
Indeed, yeah. So it could be an absolute, especially with those weather conditions and that pitch up there in Johannesburg. Indeed.
Where the Hurricanes certainly have the edge is in the controlling influence of the halfbacks. As much as Cronje and Yankees are the incumbents, they're also typify some of the problems.
I think they are the problems in many ways. I think Cronje's box kicking is technically poor. I think he kicks too often as well. I think Yankees is not a calming influence at all. I'm not sure about the telepathy they have between them. I prefer Faf in at 9.
I would too. I think. Yeah.
I just. Because Faf has more bite and attrition to him than that as well than Cronje. Cronje just kind of goes with the flow kind of player.
Passer.
He is. He's similar to Aaron Smith actually. He's just kind of floats around there and does his job sort of. But sometimes his kicks are rarely either too deep or not deep enough. They're not landed in the right area. He doesn't have his radar completely in.
Faf is a weapon of his own, and that's certainly.
Faf takes it to the line. He gives you time and space out wide because he's testing the areas on the line and the fringe. I just find you get more from him.
You do have a Faf on the bench.
You do.
You also have Julian Sevilla on the bench for
that's true too.
Hurricanes.
That's a big weapon to come in, which may happen soon enough if they're struggling physically out wide or out in the back three.
Might need him to do a job on Combrink.
Maybe,
Here's a collision for you. The two of them running at full tilt.
I would love to see it because
Combrink
is
an absolute bump off whom? Is one of them going to bump off the other at a key moment? That would be an interesting sight.
I would back Combrink. I would back Combrink to be the one to Sevilla. I could see that happening.
Yeah,
I could see that matchup being just a
little too much.
Yeah, indeed, Julian being
the Courtney Laws factor. You can do it to the small men all day, but when a big man comes for you.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, that is Courtney Laws all over. Yeah, I remember him flying out of the line at Sean O'Brien and just getting swatted off like a fly, and Shawnee just moves on.
That said, you'd be surprised. Sometimes I've seen Julian Sevilla do a job as a shooter in defence.
Yeah,
and really,
I trust him to do that. He's a good hit. He loves making a hit as much as he carries.
As much as all these All Black players, they're always a cut above. He's actually smart, Julian, as well. So he's a good weapon off the bench. But like I say, I don't really know what shape it's going to take. You are convincing in your arguments that just personnel wise, there are problems in that back line and in the defence for the Lions, but
will they have to defend that much if their pack are holding the ball?
In terms of TJ and Bowden,
that's an advantage. That's one that I will just give a mark for the Hurricanes. They have the edge at halfback,
and a bit like Cruden and McKenzie and Carvalho's. You think of them as dynamic. But they can outkick a team and win that territory battle all day long. Bowden can do that, and he's doing that very smoothly.
Yeah. Whereas loose kicks are one of the things I do associate with this halfback pair from the Lions. Just loose, aimless kicks when they come. Now they don't kick a lot of ball typically. The Lions they've had all season. They've just been keeping it in hand and going for it. And as such, they're less practiced. And I think this will be a game because just surely because of the level, they will find themselves in positions where they do have to kick. And I think
are they going to back themselves, the Lions? This is another question. Like I was talking all season, they were winning 94 against the Sunwolves and all of these matches. But their attitude was just back themselves. And last week, obviously, they've been spooked. And this week is a big game against a team
will they come out conservative and start kicking the whole time?
And that's
the danger.
If they do that, they're just like they're not used to it. They're not as competent.
They're inviting players like Jordy Barrett and Milner-Skudder back to run an attack on them off chaos ball.
It's not how they've established themselves as a team. So if they do that, I think it's a mistake. If they do back themselves, they could find tries, and they could find a lot of tries, like they do really quickly. Like they could isolate a weakness. I don't know where it is, whether it's on the outside shoulder of Vince Asso, soft shoulder of Bowden Barrett, you don't know.
Maybe.
But if they find a spot, they hit it and they hit it and they hit it and they score tries, and they are good once they get the line break of finishing the move.
They are. Their instincts in the open field are very good. Same for both teams. Both of them are very comfortable. It's what we're saying. Like it could easily be a high scoring affair. In fact, I think it will be. I think both teams will possibly break the 20-point mark. Whereas the other one, I feel, has more potential, even though they are both elite attacks. It has more potential to be a
16-10 type job.
And then a winning try to bring one team into the 20s.
You talk about the Crusaders being, I know I'm going back to it, but like you talk about the Crusaders being the team that's in control. Like the best game managers in that game are on the side of the Chiefs, so I wonder if they'll be on the right end of the tight scoreline if it does happen that way. I digress.
It's an interesting one. There are just so many questions, and it's the same like what we were saying in advance of it. They just match up so well, and we're looking at the teams here going, there are so many interesting battles across the park, and it could end up coming down to some of those individual battles on the day because the teams are matched up pretty well, and it'll just be who gets that edge, who finds that who contributes well in that moment, gets that steal. We don't know yet. We have to watch the game unfold. But I do think this will be a pretty one to watch and quite a quick one to watch. They like both teams will be wanting quick ball. Which means there will be play. And hopefully a few hits.
Look, it's really exciting. I'm really looking forward to it. Both of us are working all day Saturday, so
I know.
we're going to be relying on Sky Sports to do their job properly.
We were actually completely dicked over by Sky Sports on the part of the Chiefs game.
Stormers Chiefs game. They switched channels at half time, so we recorded it on one channel and got whatever to half
the
time.
First half, and then
next half
Super League Gold or something, and you're like, what is this?
Next half on Sky Sports Arena, whatever that is. And no more game for you.
And then they didn't have it on. They repeated the Brumbies game twice in a row.
Yes.
And we recorded both of them thinking one of them must have been an error in the description, but no, we just ended up with two different recordings of the same game. Had to wait till the day after.
Sky Sports was a problem all of last weekend. I recorded also the GA match between Cork and Mayo, which went to extra time, so cut off before I could finish it. I was really annoyed, and I'm thinking of ways around. Should I just record all Sky channels all of Saturday and see what happens, because I do not want to miss these games.
No.
I think it's a treat for any neutral,
any rugby fan.
I think even in advance of this, if you want to introduce someone to the game, I think showing them this day of rugby could be a good way to introduce them.
Indeed. I've often thought that as well. It's like when you introduce people who have never watched the game, I don't like when they're watching a Six Nations game and it's their first rugby game, because you're like, it's not meant to be like this. it's not normally so slow and so narrow.
The defenses are stopping them. They're not able to attack in this environment.
It's too elite. Elite.
That's why the knock-ons are happening. Eliteness.
Now, granted that we are moving away from that, and there has been development in the Northern Hemisphere, but certainly throwing some shade, some deserving shade, because it has been true for the last many years that the Six Nations.
This game, I am confident saying, dry weather, perfect conditions, both games. This is going to be a treat, even if it's low scoring and it happens differently to how we picture it. These are elite teams. These are positive teams. Even the Crusaders, in their own way, they do want to play and they want to fight and they want to win. It's not about stopping people. It's about being ourselves and being true to ourselves and winning. And they're all looking to win. They all have notions about winning Super Rugby, all 4 of them, and
Mhm.
rightly so.
Yeah.
There's an argument to be made for all 4 teams. I'm excited. I think
on
everyone
the
should be
day,
excited.
like it's cup final mode now, so each one of these teams is capable of doing one over on the other.
Yeah.
And that's true for all of them. So it means it's just an interesting contest that you have to watch to find out. And
Yep.
we're planning on doing that. So yeah, I guess we'll. Do we have any of those news segments? Or
We do. We have a few news
we
stories.
kind of touched on that. Oh, the Ben Smith thing. Yeah, Ben Smith is on sabbatical.
Yeah.
Interesting call.
I heard
Wrapping him
this.
in bubble wrap.
He's
before the
gonna
World Cup.
play. Well, he's already done playing Super Rugby, so he might either they're gonna wrap him up and keep him in the All Black squad, or he might. I don't know when the Mitre 10 Cup starts, if he's gonna get a game out for Otago or something.
Maybe.
But before that, he's just gonna play 2 more. After that, he's just gonna play
Bledisloe
2 more
tests.
Bledisloe tests, the first 2. And then he's not going to play for the rest of the Rugby Championship, which you have to think is a disruption that New Zealand, as a squad wanting to win, could do without.
Yeah.
But
I think it's a good opportunity for. Well, no, it won't be for Mackenzie now if he's leaving. Ugh.
yeah,
But the likes of some other fullbacks, Worthy.
I want a Mackenzie exception rule. I love him too much. Put him in your team, New Zealand. But because you shafted him,
I
so
know.
it's your fault.
Indeed, he's gone now because of you.
Yeah.
God, a lesser of all teams. If that's, I hope that's not true.
I hope
You read it.
I'm
but-
still in denial. I
Yeah.
read it somewhere. I read it on a Facebook page. I still haven't seen an official news story on it, so I choose not to believe it.
Because it's so horrible, and he won't be that effective as he is here.
Of course
it's,
not.
It's the wrong.
But he's still
Thanks
elite
for-
enough that he'll be really, really useful to
I'm
Leicester.
picturing Piatow for Ulster.
Yeah.
Only it'll be Mackenzie for
And
Leicester.
Piatow for Ulster, as much as I'm Irish, and it's good to see a New Zealander here. It's like it's the antithesis of Nasewa at Leinster. Like it just distracts from himself. He's like, it's the worst place to have him. He's just looks a head and shoulders above everyone, but he's not linking with people, and he still looks elite. But it's like there's so much more can be done with Piatow.
Yeah.
And it's just a shame, and we don't want that to be in the future, Mackenzie. But anyway,
Ben
Smith's
Smith
sabbatical.
though. Yeah. He's well, it worked for them before. You know, it's a novel approach to take to a World Cup.
I think it certainly was necessary in the case of Dan
Carter.
I think it was necessary.
And Richie
I
McCaw
don't
did
think
one as well, didn't he?
McCaw. I don't think Dan had that much rugby left in him. I think
I think the same is true of Richie as well,
teams
and
roughed
just
him up.
the nature, the attritional nature of the game that Richie McCaw was playing means that another season of that, and he's a thoroughly diminished weapon.
Teams roughed Dan Carter up, and he got hurt, and he needed a break. In the case of Ben Smith, I don't know that I agree with that. I think he uses his body well. I think he doesn't actually get involved in that many collisions, like because he's so elite. His whole movement is about avoiding collisions, and so he usually misses out.
He's
The
like
brunt
the
of
Floyd Mayweather of the rugby pitch. He's gliding around
He
untouched.
uses his movement to avoid either the hit or the bulk of the hit.
Yeah.
And he's a guy who loves playing, or at least seems to me, just on the pitch, just loves playing, loves getting the ball in hand, loves attacking teams, and gets better the more he plays, gets more intelligent, gets more focused the more he plays. So I don't know if this is his decision, if this is New Zealand's decision, if they came to it together, if he's happy with it. But just in terms of a viewer, I don't know if it's.
Well, it means we're seeing less Ben Smith, which I'm not really in favour of at all.
Yeah.
You know, I would only love to see all the Ben Smith, have a team full of Ben Smiths playing.
I know he got
amazing
injured.
rugby.
It was an ear infection, as it turned out. People were worried it was a concussion,
But it
because he was experiencing concussion symptoms, and people were like, "Oh shit, it's Ben Smith," in a bad way. But it turned out it was an ear infection,
Right.
And that was causing like dizziness, and
Yeah,
confusion,
I can
and
see
really
that.
sore head, and like. But
Yeah, it's no joke, but it's obviously not the same as it's no implications similar to a concussion, which kind of can change your life.
So I mean, maybe Ben Smith got spooked by it. Maybe he just wants to take some time off. Maybe New Zealand got spooked by it. Maybe they wanted him to take some time off.
Yeah, wrap him in bubble
In
wrap.
terms of macro view, I don't know that it'll improve him. Maybe it will. I was skeptical when they first did it, and obviously I was proven wrong. When they first rested people for like a year and brought them back in, it worked. So I don't know. But and Ben Smith is elite enough that he'll probably walk back into any team.
Yeah.
But in terms of the narrow view, the micro view, the view of this year, I think it's obviously going to have problems for New Zealand, because like as it was in the Lions tour, they're not the same team without him.
No, that's very true. So that's an interesting one. The other one, this bit of news is crazy and rotten, but England's women, the 15 aside, the professional team, we were talking about it, I think, in the preview of the Six Nations this year, in terms of just like no one's going to be able to live with England, their professional team now, but they're not anymore, it seems.
Oh, this is madness. This is absolute madness. The news is that England's 15-a-side players are not having their contracts renewed for 2 years, and they're going to employ 15 full-time sevens players instead, because the Olympics, not the Olympics is still a while away, but the World Cup is next year, and then the Commonwealth Games is
what?
Because they've already had the World Cup now, so they're going to give them 2 years off, because then they only want them for the World Cup. And they say that their long-term plan is to have rotating years. But, like, the girls gave up their jobs for this, you know? Yeah. It's absolutely nuts. It's like, you're not a professional then if it's like you work for 2 years every 2 years.
Yeah.
And then you stop. Like, it's absolutely detrimental to a career. It, like, cannot be done. You can't do that with any career. So if you want to be an accountant, like, you can't just work 2 years then take it off and do rugby. Like, it kills your career. Of course it does.
Yeah.
And
unless they come to some kind of GAA like understanding where the workplaces just employ them
but elite workplaces aren't going to have that.
No, clearly
so
not.
If you want, like, the idea about quitting your job to join a rugby team is to build a career of rugby for you however long you're around. And now you can't do that in this.
And it was also, I'm sure it was a dream come true when that happened for all these women, going like, wow, I'm a professional rugby player now, and that's amazing. I'm a professional rugby player playing for England. That's great. And you just snatched that away.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah, it's no way to treat people. And like the other thing that's just bizarre in this is like, as a professional, in a professional contract, you're gonna have to work full time.
Yeah.
So you're not going to have the option to keep building your career and play for England, because for 2 of the years they are going to be professionally contracted. So it
seems bonkers.
It's just absurd. It's crazy management, and it's a real shame. And I wonder if it's going to have detrimental effects on the England squad ahead of this World Cup.
Perhaps it could affect them.
They've got to be harbouring some bitter thoughts around now. It's nuts. It's lunacy.
Yeah.
Really poor from the RFU. Really poor.
Yeah. And the other bit of news, when we mention
I will mention it. I'm not going to say any more, because the British police and the Northern Irish police have said don't sensationalise. We want to make a fair trial happen.
Yeah, indeed.
So we're just going to say Paddy Jackson and Stuart Olding are not around. They're not doing pre-season for Ulster or anything like that. They have been suspended ahead of a trial for rape prosecution that's going on now.
Which I raised an eyebrow too. It's something we're not going to talk about anymore, because I absolutely despise when journalists do, because I think just even rape allegations are enough to destroy a man's life or a person's life at all at any level. So we don't know anything about it. So.
Whatever happens, we'll just have to wait and see. What we're saying for now is that they're
Ulster are basically without Paddy Jackson and
convicted. It will take some kind of cognitive dissonance to support them, and I don't know that I would do that. But we'll have to wait and see. I'm not making any character references or anything like that. We don't know.
I just don't know.
We just don't know. So that's a thing that's happening. They're not going to be around for Ulster for a bit, and that's all we're going to say about that.
And I suppose that's a curious old note to end on, though. But we've reached the end. That was pretty much it. As we said, it's a Super Rugby fest at the moment. That's pretty much the only place you can go for your rugby fix if you're
what a
like
place
us.
It is, though.
It's great, and we're getting
it. There is the final. Well, not the final, but the last fixture of the Africa Cup.
We haven't actually watched it. It hasn't been televised.
I've seen highlights of it, on World Rugby TV and things, just like little highlight packages. But it is between the two top of the table teams, Namibia and Kenya. So go on, Kenya.
Go on, Kenya, says you. Running rugby. Runners from 1 to 15.
Yeah, actually, Namibia are coached by Phil Davis, who used to coach Cardiff.
So they'd be playing Welsh rugby, but good ball and hand stuff. The Kenyan sevens team were always impressive. I always
enjoyed the Kenyan 17. They had something different and interesting body types and interesting movement and surprisingly good hands, and for a team that's not that great, they have weapons, and it's just a different look.
Indeed,
and it's nice. It's kind of cool to get all different body types and shapes playing the game and seeing what everything brings to the table.
Indeed, I think there's a lot more to be discovered as rugby develops with that.
For sure,
there's a lot more
because we all we know the phenomenon that is Polynesia for rugby players, but we have no reason to believe that the only body type that's going to
be
excel in rugby. So
So no, we look forward to seeing more of that. Like obviously, I haven't been able to find a place where that's been televised. The standard seems a little lower.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
There was one try last week where like a second row made a break on the halfway line. He was just doing this dummy.
Dane Colson down
and
the
then he got
pitch.
like wrapped up on the 22, and it looked like they were going to hold him up for a maul. And he just popped out the other end and ran in. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I love that. I love a little bit of chaos, crazy play amongst lesser teams. But no, for this weekend now, it's pretty much as elite as rugby gets at the semi-final of Super Rugby, and it's great to finally be able to say that because we have competitive fixtures, truly competitive fixtures.
And unlike last season, or like there have been a few seasons in recent years. I think last season was one where in season everything looked class and everything looked really good. And then at the end of the season, the playoffs were a bit of a letdown. And this season, I think, is going the opposite way.
The playoffs are what we're all been
the Hurricanes Brumbies game was great to watch. The Crusaders Highlanders game was a bit of a letdown. But then the other two games I thought were really, really great.
Good, yeah.
Real treats, and really, like, those kinds of games have been few and far between this year. So let's have two more and then another one next
for the
week.
final. Yeah. Whoever, and come on the Chiefs as well.
Come on the Chiefs. I think we've decided to side with the Chiefs, and it is a rugby-based decision.
Yeah, exactly.
All
it goes with our finding space philosophies.
Yes. Thanks, guys.
So, all right, we'll see you next week.
Bye. I'm going to cut that out.
No, you're not. I'm going to put it in.